I'm Patrick Bailey with whiteboardcoder.com. Today is July 18th, 2017. And in this video, I'm going to be going over how to set up, use Git Hooks in Gollum to sync Gollum with a remote Git repository, and also to get the remote Git repository to set up hooks on that server side to go back and sync up with Gollum. This would allow you to have your wiki automatically pushed to your server, and if you use some other your Git server, and if you have some other method to push information to the Git server, to have those changes automatically applied to your Gollum Wiki. Okay, let me take a quick side journey on tmux and using a cron for a reboot. So what I have currently is I have my wiki, and what I have done is I've made a tmux command, and you can see right there, tmux Gollum commands, just a simple script. And what this does is it will start tmux. And if you're not familiar with what tmux is, it's kind of like screen. It opens up an interface there that kind of detaches itself. And so what this actually will do is it'll actually go into this directory and it'll run Gollum for me. And I have some custom settings, some emojis, some templates, and so it kind of does that all for me. So I can just run this to start it. What I also have done, and I wouldn't recommend this, but it's nice to start off just to get something quickly done if you're not familiar with systemd. In etc cron tab, which is usually used for cron jobs, there's actually another feature in there that I didn't know about until about a month ago, is you can do an @reboot. And so you actually can put a command in there that will run during the reboot once. And so I just said @reboot, run this command. And so I recently just rebooted. And so now if I do tmux ls, it'll list that that is actually running. And I can do tmux a and attach to it, and I can see that it's running. And I can go over here and load a page, and I can see that my Gollum server is working. And I can see the outputs over here, and there you go. And then I can do a Control-A-D to detach from it. And so that's a simple way to get it working, just kind of a little side journey here. But now I have a git log. Let me see, do git log-n2. So I've just initially committed this. Now, what I want to do is I want to set up the username and email locally on this box so that it will list itself as Gollum. So it's kind of easy to know where the git push came from, where the files were changed. So I'm going to do a git config -- global, because in this case, this box is just for Gollum. And I'll do a user.email, and I'll do Gollum @example.com. And I'll do a git config -- global user.name, and again I'll call that Gollum, just so I know who's checking things in. Next thing I need to do is set up my remote repository to push to. And what I have here right now is I have a remote server that is my Git repository that I use for my remote Git repositories. I've already set up all the SSH keys so they know how to talk to each other. And I can go into here and go to Git demo. Let me remove this real quick. Okay, and so I'll make a directory in here and I'll call it demo.wiki. And it's empty. And then I will do a git init -- bare, so there's nothing in it. And that's a simple way to set up a Git repository so I can push to it. Now over here I can set up a remote repository, and if I do this right, I can do git remote add origin, and get, because the Git user is who is used on that box. In this case I call home git demo.wiki. Okay, that should be right. Okay. And then I can do push origin master. Okay, good, I did it right. So it's been pushed, they're connected. Now the one thing I can't do right now in its current state, if I do a git push, I get this error thrown up, or a git pull. So a simple way to fix it, I like to have my stream set up right. So I can do git push -- set upstream origin master, and get config -- global push .default simple. There we go. So now I can do a git push and a git pull, and life is fine. So that is all set up just right. So now I've got them connected. So next thing I'm going to go through and do some more setup to get it all working. Okay, pushing and pulling. So here I am. I'm just going to kind of do some setups do a setup by hand. So here I can go git log -n2, and I can see who's been checking stuff in. And here I am on the Gollum box. So I can just do some quick tweaks. Let me go to this tmux. I'll just edit this command with a note. So now I'm just going to make a change locally. I'm not making a change through the wiki. I'm just making a change locally in the Git repository as the Gollum user that I've set up here. So I should be able to do git add all, git commit, tweaked command, and do a push. And now locally I should do a git log -n2, and I can see the last push was the tweaked command, and there it is. Now if I go over to the server, where the information was just pushed, even though this is a bare repository, I can do a git log -n2, and I can see, yes, indeed, it got pushed up. Now over here on my local hard drive, I pulled it down. But I didn't just pull it down just this moment. So if I do a git log -n2, I should see the last repository. But if I do a git pull and run it again, now I see, yeah, I'm getting the tweaked command. And I see that Gollum did it. Now on this side, if I tweak it again, tmux commands, and another. Now on this side, the user is defined differently. It's defined as Patrick, and so it should show up differently. So if I do a git add all, git commit, tweaked from my laptop, and push it up. Now here, I should see on the Git server, I just see, yes, tweet from my laptop, and it was done by Patrick at patrickexample.com. So now I can distinguish between the two. But over here, I need to pull it up. So now I can do a git pull, I can pull it up, and I should see, yep, so it's all working just fine. Now the next thing I need to do, of course, is actually edit a page. So if I go in here, and I'm just going to edit this page, editing this page for a demo. And here I can make a note if I want to. My note that will appear in Git. And hit save. So now this Gollum should have updated that Git, the local Git. So now if I go in here, I should see git log -n2, and I should see the note right there that I did, and I should also see that it was done by Gollum. Now I need to push it up. And it gets pushed up, and I can see over here, let me make it simple to read. Yep, there's a note, and then over locally, I can of course pull it down, and see that, yeah, there's my note. So in a sense, if you just connected things like this, you could manually sync your repository. And that's fine if all you're going to do is pull things down. So if all you're going to do is pull things down, every so often you could go into here, push it up, and then to your remote Git repository, and then pull it down. But what we want is we want this to auto-push everything up. And also we want this, we also want the Git repository that no matter where it receives changes from, that it will push back to the Gollum server and update there. So with that in mind, the next thing I do is work on the client-side Git hooks. Okay, this is one of those things that should be simple, but because of the way Gollum is set up, it's not. So basically what we have in Git, and I'm not going to go into any great detail, is Git has the ability to it has hooks. And so these hooks, and there's different types of hooks, you can put hooks into your local Git repository. They're not part, I should say, you can put hooks locally. They're not part of your repository. They're just on your machine, or you can put hooks on the server. And what happens is, based on the type of hook, it'll be called at different stages during the Git process. So I'm not going to go into great detail about that, but in this case, we want to, after something's committed locally, then we want to do something. And in this case, we want to push what we have locally up to the remote repository. So what we can do is we can do vi and go .get into the local .get folder and hooks. And in here, there's some samples in here. The .samples are not running. But what we're going to do is we're going to choose post. We're going to make a new one called post dash commit. And that's good enough for us. And then here, you just write your program. And so in this one, I'm going to make something very, very simple. It's just going to be a bash script. And I'm going to say simple push to origin master. And so all it is going to do is literally going to run git push origin master. Simple as that. And so now if I save that, let's see, we'll save it, and I think, do I need to make it, yeah, I need to make it executable. So change mod, all plus execute dot get hooks post commit. And now having done that, I should be able to see if I do git status, it's not part of my git repository. That hook will not be pushed up to the server. It's just on this box. And so now, if I'm thinking correctly, that hook should work. Technically it should work, but right now it should only work if I'm doing git locally. If I'm changing something via the command line, it should work. So if I go over here and do a git log -n2, I can see the last person was Gollum, and he had this my note that will appear in git. So let me go make a real quick change. I'll keep changing this tmux command. There we go. New test. First, Git Hook test. So the minute I commit this, once it's done, it should, in theory, run that command and push it up. And so that hopefully occurred. And so if I do a git log -n2, I can see locally, first Git Hook. And if I did it right, yeah, first Git Hook. So that hook worked. And that's how hooks should work. But there is a problem. If with the way that Gollum handles Git. And so if I go here and I edit this, and I make a change, a new change, and I say hook will not work, and I save it, it should update the local repository. And so if I do a git log -n2, I should see hook will not work. But over here on the server, you can see the hook did not work. It did not push it, even though the hook is there. So what happened? I had to go look up some information, and it is on, it's better documented on my wiki here, so there's some issues. So you have to actually make a configuration. So you can go onto my wiki, you can look up this information and go through all the rigmarole, but it has not been fixed, but you can fix it by hand. So what you're going to have to do is you have to make a special config file, which I have already made. So in my case, I moved it. I have a Gollum custom folder, which is technically not part of my wiki. It just has the custom configurations that I want to do for Gollum. And there I made a config folder, and in there, this config.rb. It's a Ruby file. And this is all you have to put in there. So it's going to be a Gollum hook register, and it's only going to deal with post commits. Since that's all I'm doing here anyway, I'm just doing this one post commit, and this will actually do that. It'll go down there and run this post commit. Unless I edit this file, that's the only kind of hook I can do based on this. But that's all I want to do right now. And so that's all you're going to do, and you can go to the blog post I did and probably just cut and paste this. But that's what you need. You need that file. Now the next thing you need to do is you actually need to start tmux with that file. So now we actually do need to make a change to the Gollum. Let me copy that before I forget. Let me copy that. So let me edit how this is actually going to call things. So in here, there is a what is it? -- config, I think. Nah, you're going to mess me up in my mind. Yeah, dash dash config. So another thing I can add in here is dash dash config. So it'll grab that file and use it. And so I'll say that's where the file is. So let me save this, and I'll actually go into, I'll attach that tmux, and I'll kill it. And then I will just run it again, which should initiate that. And so now, in theory, it should be fine and happy and running. So now if I go here, to make sure it's running, and edit this, I'll say this change should work. And I'll say this now should execute the hook. Boom, and save that. Commit it. You detach from there. Control A-D to detach. And so now if I look locally, it should have had that committed locally, and hopefully it ran the hook. I should say hopefully. I notes say it should. If I do that, this should now execute the hook. So we have fixed one of Gollum's issues with that. So now the hook on the client, the hook on the Gollum server is working. It's correctly, whenever there's a change, it's pushing it. If I'm doing it by hand, it's pushing it. And I shouldn't really do that by hand on the Gollum server very often at all. But 99% of the time it should be I'm editing the Gollum server, the Gollum Wiki. Every time I make a change here, it's pushed up to my Git server. So now the next thing and last thing I need to do is actually go on the server side and put a hook on the server side so that when it receives changes, it will push the changes. It'll tell Gollum to basically pull changes and update itself. Okay, now for the fun stuff. So now I need to set up a hook on my Git server so that whenever something is pushed to it, whenever something's pushed to it, technically not from the Gollum server, it will tell the Gollum server to pull the latest Git repository. So this is where the fun part comes on. So right now, to do that, a simple way to do that is I'm going to have my Git server basically SSH over to my Gollum server and run those kinds of commands. So I need to give my Git user on my Git server access, SSH access to my Gollum server. So what I can do is go cat.ssh ID, get my public key. So I get that public key, and over here I need to do, as my Git user, in this case, authorize keys. And so go down here, and I will cut and paste this guy. Okay, so, I just did that backwards. Sorry, I did that backwards. Okay, how about I do it on here? I get the public key on my Git server. And over here I do that. How about we do it the right way? Authorize keys. And so I will come over here and copy and paste that over. Okay. And so now from my Git server, I should be able to hook into, be able to log in onto the Gollum server. And I am. So there we go. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Okay, so now that I've got that working, the next thing I need to do is actually create a hook. So here I am in the wiki, and so here I can do by hooks post receive is the one I want to do. And I'm going to start creating this guy. And so what I'm going to do is a simple bash script. Set user to log in to Gollum server. Just like being color coded. Okay, so then I have a user, in this case Patman, and I have a Gollum address. Well, normally I just put the IP address in here, but I've got it set up locally, so I think that should work. the new Gollum directory, where the Gollum directory is locally when I log in, and in this case it's the demo.wiki. I'm not saying this is very fancy, it just is what it is. Okay, so that's where Gollum lives currently for this demonstration. Now what I need to do is this post receive will run no matter who pushes to it, whether Gollum pushes to it or someone else does. So the first thing I need to do is actually see if the latest SHA matches the SHA on Gollum. If it does, I don't need to update. So if the committed SHA on Gollum server and here are a match. And so then I would do local SHA equals 10. I'll do a get rev.parse -- verify head. And that should give me the local SHA. And then over here we can go get the Gollum SHA equals SSH user at Gollum address. I better copy and paste this before I screw it up. Let me do a copy and paste over here before I type something down wrong. At least in this one. Okay, so that's going to basically log in and do the same thing, but on the Gollum server. And so as a test, I'll just echo these out. Local SHA echo Gollum SHA. Alright. Okay, save that, change mod, all plus execute, hooks, post receive. I'll just do it like that for now. And so then I can do a hooks, post receive just to run it. And you can see there I got, why did I get extra C at the end? It's not good. So let me do get log -n2 and 42 and 42, and I must have messed up my code. There it is, C at the end. So in this case, the last update I did was on Gollum, so they should match. And so that makes perfect sense. So run it again, now they're a match. Perfect. So that's working. Because if they are a match, I do not want to run it. Because that means that it was last updated by the Gollum server. Okay, so let me cut and paste this stuff in. So basically here I'm going to say, if they are not equal, then I need to run it. So what I'm going to do is SSH over there to the Gollum server, and then CD into what I consider my Gollum directory, and just do a git pull origin master. So I'm going to force it to pull it. Now there's probably other ways to do this in fancy ways, but this is simple enough for my needs, and this is all local, so on my server. So now if I save that, we should be good. I already changed, it's already executable. Do I need to restart Gollum? I do not need to restart Gollum. No. So now I can go over here to here, and I can do a git pull. My local box. And I can see there are my changes. So now I can, now they're all in sync. So now let me update something. tmux. So I'm just going to update something here. A new note. Add it and commit it. And this should execute the server webhook. And when that happens, that should automatically push it all the way up to Gollum. Well, once I push it. So now I pushed it, and I definitely should see it here. And there it is. There's a webhook. Now I should, in theory, see it here. It should now execute the server webhook, and it did not. Okay, now I need to go figure out why it did not. Okay, let me go investigate why that did not execute. Okay, there's a reason, and also it exposes that my use, the way I'm doing it right now, is very simplistic. So if I actually go here and I actually just run the hook by hand, you'll see that I get this error. It says your local change to the following files will be overwritten. And so it aborts it because I'm written in such a way that I'm not forcing the issues. And if I go over here to the Gollum server and I look, there's actually a file that I changed locally that I did not push up. And that's my fault. But you can see how I didn't write in. It's not sophisticated right now, where it's not handling errors like that. How do you error? How do you tell people? How do you force it? And there's ways of doing that. But right now, for my needs and my use, since this is just my personal Gollum setup, I don't need to write anything fancy. And if I have an issue like I just did right now, I'll see it and eventually fix it myself. But let me add this. Well, what I gotta do? Because that overwrote that. Ooh. I'll just stash it. So I'll do a stash locally. And basically that takes all the differences, anything that's changed, and just kind of puts it in a little stash in a stack. So now if I do this, I'll see that nothing's changed. And I will run this hook by hand. It actually pushes it. And I'll see it get log-n2. And I'll see that, yes, I did get it, even though I just ran it by hand. And I'll do a git stash pop. So it'll pop those changes off because I do want them. And let me just add them all by hand. Git command-n added config, because I need that config for the local hook to work. So let me push that. So now that's pushed up, and I can come over here and just pull that down too. So now we should all be in sync, and there shouldn't be any weird files out there. So now if I go over here to this and do a change, and this should make the server hook run. So now I push it, and now it should run. So get log-n2. This should make the server hook run. And get log-n2. This should make the server hook run. And now over here, it should have run. And there you go. This should make the server hook run. So now they're working consistently. So any changes that are made on Gollum, either via the command line or via Gollum itself, which will update the Git, all those, it'll run the hooks, it'll push the changes to the Git server, and any other things that happen to push up to the Git server will be forwarded. We'll tell Gollum to initiate a pull and pull the new data. Also, when Gollum pushes to the server, it will also technically run that hook, but that hook has that check to see if the SHAs are the same. And if they're the same, it won't tell Gollum to pull, just to not waste time like that. Okay, so that should force everything to stay in sync. It's not perfect, but it gives you an idea how to use hooks with Gollum and how to keep things in sync. And so far I've been using it, and I've been pretty happy. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a like. To subscribe, just click the subscribe button. Also, you can follow me on Twitter under the handle @whiteboardcoder.com. View any code I may have thrown up as a gist at GitHub under the username PatmanDenver, or check out my blog site at whiteboardcoder.com.